Hello, Miss Kimberley. How are you?
Hello, Ebony. I'm fine, sweetie. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I'm getting through these very strange times.
Strange, challenging,
Yeah,
but
totally,
much,
totally.
but much needed. The community
Mm,
where I live are starting to look after each other a bit more. A lot of the elderly people, we're looking after them, seeing if they
yeah.
need anything.
I'd love to come to you and hear about your journey.
I live right on the border of Canada. A lot of people don't realize that Detroit's
Oh,
on the border
wow.
of Canada. So Windsor. So our accents are quite similar. And plus,
Mm,
growing up, I spent loads of time in Toronto. A lot of Americans do.
I
Well,
love Toronto. It's
yeah,
great.
Toronto is a great city. I do love
Mm,
it. I love how they're having this resurgence of fabulousness. That's what I'm trying to say. So many people are starting to, holiday and get to know the country because it's a great
mm.
country. When I was a kid growing up, I grew up in a very small town just outside Detroit. It was a town full of, you know, racist Republicans and,
Wow, okay.
there's a church in every corner, men are men, women are women. The LGBT plus community is non-existent. I always felt different. I always felt different as, the gender I was assigned to, but I always felt different that I really wasn't a part of that community. But I remember when I was 5 years old, I looked into a magazine and I saw a picture of Grace Jones and Andy
Oh,
Warhol
wow.
together. I have no idea who they are, but I looked at them and thought, oh my God, that's me at 5 years old. 5 years old. And it's
Wow.
great because when I became a young adult, actually in my late teens, I actually got to know Grace and Andy Warhol. So, which was really
Wow.
amazing. I know, really amazing. I mean, I met him like shortly before he died, but still, I got to meet him.
Mm,
And as you know, myself and Grace have a little relationship because she came to my club when I was at the powder room in heaven. So basically, where I'm going to
wow.
with this story is, I looked in this magazine. I looked at the two people. They weren't European, but they were people that looked like they came from somewhere far away.
Mm, yeah.
And growing up, I only thought about being an actress, living in Europe, and living as a woman. That was my whole thought throughout my adolescence until adulthood.
Wow.
Yeah, 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 definitely. And it was really funny because when I was in school, we had the exchange students that came over, and I was always friends with the exchange students. They
Yeah.
wore funny shoes and they dressed funny, and I was so attracted to that. I wanted to
Yeah.
get out and I wanted to meet different types of people. I wanted to eat different types of food. I wanted to wear different designers. I wanted to do everything
Mm,
different.
wow. There is a whole world out there,
It is,
it,
yes.
but it's quite funny you mention that because actually, I've I kind of was pushed into getting on a train on my own at the age of 16. Um,
Amazing.
so that was kind of part of getting independence as a visually impaired person, and since then,
Amazing.
I haven't kind of stepped away from doing that. But
Amazing.
it's funny you mention about people staying in one place because in London, what I've noticed is that mentality you're talking about
Yeah.
is not too dissimilar to some people in London. They haven't,
Yeah.
they don't know they don't know where Liverpool is,
Yeah. Yeah.
and according to them, I'm a northerner, but
Right. Yeah.
uh, Birmingham is in the middle of the UK,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
so you know,
I think that's great. I think that's great, Ebony, that you took that initiative. You knew there was something else bigger and better waiting for you, and not being scared, having the guts to do it.
yeah, exactly, and that brings me on to my question about I guess, your trans journey and
Mhm.
kind of where it started and kind of
My trans
yeah, and how it's how you might see things are improving or not improving or those kind
uh,
of things.
well, my trans journey started probably with the day I looked at that magazine, really. I knew I was different. You know, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what transitioning meant when I was quite young. It's been a very long and tedious road, you know, to just to be part of the LGBT community. You need to have this strength, and being Black as well. You have to be strong, and you know, finding that strength and that self-love it was challenging for me, and it can be challenging for a lot of people. But I think because you know, there's more visibility with trans culture, that has helped me a lot as well. You know, it's great to see these young kids, you know, who are just out there. You know, it's really good to see the younger generation just really going for it, and that helped boost my morale. When you can go outside and you can breathe, I mean, people take for granted being able to go outside and just breathe. Now I can go outside and breathe, and it's the happiest I've ever been. I'm still transitioning. There's still things that I still want to do, but I've noticed in the last 3-4 months since this COVID-19, I have done a hell of a lot of growing up. I've done a hell of a lot of changing, a lot. I've learned how to relax for the first time in my life, and first time in 30 years.
Wow.
I know. This is why, you know, with COVID, it's a terrible thing that's happened, but I always say, out of something bad, there's always something good that happens. And I start to look at myself in a different light. There's a lot of pain that has come from my own community, that I've had to close the door on to move on. You know, that's just not in the Black community, it's a white community as well. I've had to close the door and just go, I'm done. I'm just done with this.
Yeah.
We need to put our differences aside and come together a bit more.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think, it's so weird. So I think for me, what I can see is that I know as a Black Caribbean person, I mean, I get on with everyone. You know, every Black person, no matter what with your Black Caribbean, Black African, whatever, I get on with you. But I know that there is a thing, a little thing, which kind of gets in the way of people coming together. And if that thing if people could just be easy, we do need to be a bit more tighter. And
we do. We do. And I think as well, not to cut you off, but I want to get this point out before I forget it. I do think as well, the white community has a lot to do with it. And I'll tell you why. Because in so many of these clubs, we'll have one Black person. We'll have that token Black person. So you have all these Black people fighting for one job. So I think that has something to do with it as well. You don't have so much of that these days. Not so much, but it is still there. It is still there. But I always say to my Black brothers and sisters, it's not about me being a star, because it's just not about me being a star. It's about all of us being a stars, but we have to lift each other up, and we have to support each other. And that's what some get and some don't.
I think there's a definitely, for me, what I feel is there is a community there.
Of course.
And we are connecting.
Yeah, we are. We are starting to, but not everybody, but we are starting to.
Not everybody.
Yeah, but we're starting to. Yeah, we're starting to.
Promoters are being a bit more, some are doing more than others.
Some, yes. Some.
And I think also, I have to say, like, when it comes for me, after doing a lot of research and supporting kind of advertising sexual health with GMFA many years ago, there is something in a way of access for BAME people and making the process of applying for opportunities straightforward. Because and the more simple it is,
yes,
the more people will engage.
And you have to be a fighter. You have to be. This is one. If there's one thing I'm happy about myself, is that I am a fighter. I have been up, I have been down, I've been up again and back down again. And when I'm down, I will claw myself right back to the top. I am not going to let anybody stop me from doing what I want to do. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and that's exactly the attitude. Yeah. I mean, my mother used to always tell me, don't forget, you have to work extra hard, because that's the way. And I think for me, being when you're visually impaired and you're disabled and you kind of you're kind of trying to step out of institutions and going into the mainstream, which for me, I found being a part of the arts naturally does, and especially, I have to say, especially the cabaret side of things. You can't really get any more mainstream than that, and so straight away.
Oh, that's debatable.
Well, yeah, but I'm sure, but
I'm always looking at the world. I'm not just looking at this little cabaret space in London. I'm looking at the world.
Yeah. I mean, but for me at least, it was like, oh my God, wow, okay. So, because there were certain things when you're part of a group, let's just say that group is a disabled group and you're performing together, there are certain things which you don't have to worry about, because it is the whole people getting used to having disabled people on their program and all that.
Getting used to having what?
Having disabled people on their program.
Yeah. Well, that should have been like something that happened 1,000 years ago.
Totally.
When I first came here, in the 90s, I was working at Madame Jojo's as a chorus girl. I was the first Black chorus girl. I come all the way over the pond to be the first Black chorus girl. And the only reason why I got that job is because I'm American and I'm light skinned. That was the only reason. The only reason. Wow. And and because I'm working with all these white people, I had to, sit there and listen to their fucking racist jokes all the time. It was just horrible.
So where do you think the trans community is going now, and how things might look in the future?
I think the trans community is it's going. What's happened with the trans community is it's not going to stop. All these people like J.K. Rowling, who says she supports the trans community, but yet she doesn't support certain aspects of the trans community. She gets all this false rhetoric. You have these people who are trying to put all this hate out there. You have the Turks who are trying so hard. It's not gonna work. At the end of the day, love wins.
So that, thanks to Bar Whatever, and I have to say,
Ingo. Oh.
Yeah, Ingo. Yeah, just opened up my mind's eye. Totally.
I don't think she'll ever realize how much she means to a lot of non-binary people, Black and white. She really stuck her neck out for a lot of us and helped a lot of us build our careers, so.
Totally, yeah.
Which is great, so. And I'll always be indebted to her. I was thinking about her today, actually, thinking, I need to give her a little shout. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like bizarre. They were the first person The first promoter to book me.
It's lovely that you can go to the space and just feel, you know, a part of something, you know, which is, you know, it's not like, well, I got to go to a Black club or I got to go to a trans club or whatever. It's just a space where all these different types of people come together and just, you know, love each other and support each other. I tell you, for me, going on stage at Bar Whatever is always a pleasure because the audiences, I always find them right there with me. They're right there. It's always a generous audience.
Yeah, totally. They give everything. They're like,
they give everything, you know, they do. They give more.
Yeah.
And it's very much appreciated, definitely. And even when I was in Heaven in the 90s, when I had the powder room, you know, I had the powder room, it just wasn't a room full of trans girls. It was drag queens, trans men, trans women, lesbians, butch, femme, camp guys, muscle men, bear, everybody. We all hung out together.
Oh, wow.
We all hung out together. And it was amazing. And that's why people still talk about that till this day. But
yeah, totally.
The reason why it worked, because it comes from the top. It comes from the top. And I made everybody feel welcome.
So what would be your words, your advice to anyone who is kind of looking for a community that is trans to kind of connect with in London?
Well, you know, go search out all the communities and see which one lifts you up, which one makes you feel good. You know, you can't be around people who don't make you feel good, because that is negative energy and it pulls you down. You have to be around people who lift you up, and you can't just let them lift you up. You have to lift them up as well. It's about working together, supporting each other. There is no point hanging out in some community or some group who are not going to lift you up.
Thank you, Mzz Kimberley.
You're very welcome, sweetie. And I just want to tell you, I'm very proud of you. I think you did an amazing job. You know, keep up the good work, because I see you growing and growing and growing and growing. And it's lovely to see. It's absolutely lovely to see. So, and I love hearing the story about how you got yourself on the train being visually impaired, and you came down here to London and you made a life for yourself. So you pat yourself on the back for that.
Thank you.